and the history of how our people have been treated. And we also know that there has been an ugly sort of pattern here in terms of a desire to keep our people from being educated, to keep us from being able to compete at the highest levels, for the ability to critically think. And it starts with the public school system, which you all know that I think it's an absolute mess. And so brother Abdul Muhammad is here, and he's going to tell his story. So, without further ado, I'd like to ask my brother, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dr. Boyce, Dr. Watkins, how are you? Assalamu alaikum, and I want to thank you for having me on your show and thank your viewers as well.
Alaikum assalam. So good to see you, brother. And everybody in here knows, y'all. Now, I hope y'all know by now that I'm a big supporter of the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I make no apologies for that. We got enough apologizing Negroes out here. I do not ever
This is
plan to be
true.
one of them. And
This is true.
I'll apologize to my wife or my mama or my kids, and I'll apologize to y'all. But I ain't apologizing to people who want us in slavery. And so brother, why don't we just start from the beginning? And I want everybody to really hear your story, and you can just take your time. And before we do that, I want to give some housekeeping real quick. Everybody who came into the Zoom, I think that it was a mistake accidentally. Brother Muhammad's personal link was sent out, and so those of you that are inside the personal Zoom, you can still get in. Just go to write down this URL and you can go in and this way you can register for the book club. You can go to blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. And also, or if you go to my YouTube channel, which is at Dr. Boyce, youtube.com/. Dr. Boyce and the Dr. Boyce Watkins channel, and I'm gonna share the link with everybody so you guys can have it. And then what I'm gonna have to do is exit you guys out of it so that it could just be me and the brother speaking. But all of you are welcome, and I'd love to have all of you here. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. So, brother Muhammad, tell your story. What is it that what brought us together? What allowed you and I to become friends?
Well, brother, the thing, give me 1 second, my brother. So the thing that brought us together, Dr. Watkins, is that I have been a 29-year educator in Chicago, in the city of Chicago. And I was at one of your favorite schools in the beginning of my career, Muhammad University of Islam. That's where I started my education. I graduated from Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, HBCU in education. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in educational leadership, and I moved to Chicago to be a teacher, which is my passion. And I started my career, as I said, at Muhammad University of Islam. And then I transitioned to Chicago Public Schools, working with our children. And the way you and I got connected is that Miss President, who works with you, is one of my former students from the west side of Chicago, who was in my class, who I taught Black history to. And so that's how we got connected. And I reached out to her to get in touch with you so that I could share with your listeners what's going on with Black educators in Chicago, but it's really what's going on with Black educators across the country. Because as you said, Dr. Boyce, there is a level of racism in Chicago and around the country, and it's impacting Black educators. And what I need everybody to understand is when we attack Black educators, we're really attacking Black children, because the Black educator stands between the system of oppression, or this racist system that we deal with, and Black children. So what we've seen in Chicago historically is an attack on Black teachers first. For example, when I first came in Chicago public schools, the district in Chicago was 50% Black, meaning half of the teachers in Chicago public schools were Black. Right now, only 20% of the teachers, it may be even less than that, only 20% of the teachers are Black. And we asked, well, how did that happen? It is because the Chicago Public Schools leadership systematically purged Black teachers from the classroom. And I can remember being a young teacher and the older teachers telling me that they're trying to get rid of the Black educators. And that's 100% true. And I don't want anybody to take my word for it. Chicago Public Schools was sued a couple of years ago for exactly what I'm talking about. They were sued, and they had to pay the teachers that they systematically purged from the classrooms. And if you go on their website, they admit that this is one of the instances of racism in the district where they systematically got rid of Black teachers. We know that when Rahm Emanuel was the mayor, Rahm Emanuel closed over 53 schools, and the majority of those schools were Black in the city of Chicago with the promise that these Black children wouldn't fall through the cracks. They came back 10 years later, and the vast majority of, if I remember correctly, it was 30,000 Black children that were impacted by that. And the vast majority of those children fell through the cracks. So this is what brought us together. There's a constant war, not just in Chicago, but there's a war against Black educators. And we're, when this came to me, Dr. Boyce, I had to stand up and fight it. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't just say, well, I'm just not going to say anything. And so that's how we came together, my brother.
All right. So Brother Muhammad, what is your how long have you been with Chicago Public Schools, and what roles have you had in the school system?
I've been in Chicago Public Schools for 25 years. I was a teacher, and I'm going to show some stuff on the screen. Can you all see my screen? Can you see it, Dr. Watkins? Okay.
I can. Everybody in the chat, give me a quick yes if you can see it on the screen. I'll make sure everybody in the chat can see it. Can everybody see it? Okay. All right.
Okay. I'm gonna is it full screen or no, Dr. Watkins?
I think that our little image is on the side.
Okay. Okay.
But they can definitely see the now the slides. It's not in what they call it, presentation mode.
Presentation mode. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, but but I can see the information.
Okay, let me okay, there we go. I'm gonna show this is a real quick video. I'm gonna play this real quick.
Sure.
Know that I can sometimes have an ego. I thought I was the best principal in Chicago's history. If you look at my emails, it says most awarded principal, right? It says principal of the neighborhood school. I thought I was the best. And then I met Abdul Muhammad. Yeah. And it didn't occur to me immediately. Thank you, bro. I'm not playing. Those who know me know it takes a lot to get me to a point where I say I done found someone better than I think I am. And it didn't occur to me immediately, just the more I heard from this story, everywhere he goes. Right. Students achieve rising. Right. Wow. Everywhere he goes. Wow. Climate and culture gets transformed. Wow. From fights every day to peace in the hall. Everywhere he goes. And the thing that everywhere he goes, graduation rates go up. And the thing that finally hit me about him is why everywhere he goes, you see those things. It dawned upon me that this man loves Black children. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to share that, brother, Dr. Watkins. That's the president of the Principals Union here in Chicago when we had our press conference. But just to give you some of my history, I've been a teacher in Chicago Public Schools for 25 years. I taught 17 and I was in I taught for 17 years. That's including Muhammad University. And I was in administration for about 11 or 12 years. But while I was a teacher, I was awarded the Teacher of the Year for the city of Chicago. Mayor Daley invited me at that time to City Hall to give me the honor of being the Teacher of the Year. I was also nominated twice for the Golden Apple. When I won the Teacher of the Year award, I received a letter of support and love from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as well as at that time it was President George Bush. So the work that I've done as an educator over the years, every school that I've gone into as a teacher, I have increased the educational attainment of Black children. The things that you talk about, Dr. Boyce, the things that you talk about with your viewers were the things that I did with my students. For example, we talk about how our children need to learn Black history. I didn't wait on anyone else to teach our children Black history. I'm the one that made sure that our children learned about their history. I would take our children every year to a museum in Milwaukee called the Black Holocaust Museum and let them see exactly what happened to Black people. I would take them to Ferris State University at the Jim Crow Museum to give them real life experiences of what happened with Black people. You talk about self-independence as far as economics. These are things that I taught students in the Chicago Public Schools, and many of them have gone out with what I taught them and have opened businesses and done things for themselves and for their community. So the thing that we're asking for, that we say we need in education, all I'm trying to say is that there are Black educators in the schools providing our children exactly what we as a community say our children need and what our children deserve. I was also nominated for the Golden Apple Award. This is the highest honor that a teacher can receive. So I was nominated twice for the Golden Apple, once in 2004 and another time in 2007. I was also featured in Who's Who among American high school teachers. Brother Dr. Boyce, I've had students come to me as a teacher and say, Mr. Muhammad, the only reason I'm coming to school is to come to your class. Once your class is over with, I'm going back home. And the reason they said that is because there was no learning taking place in the other classes. But when they got in my classroom, my students didn't love me because I gave them free time. They didn't love me and respect me because I let them play on their cell phones or surf the internet. The reason that the students in every place I've gone respected me and loved me to this very day is because I had a standard. I had high standards for them. I held them to the standard, and every day that they came to my classroom, from the beginning to the end, they were educated. It was no such thing as free time. So some of us believe the myth that Black children don't want to learn. And I'm here to dispel that myth. That is not true. That's a lie. Black children want to learn just as much or more than other children. There are certain barriers that you're going to have to overcome in dealing with Black children. And if you're not willing to overcome the barriers, you'll never get to them. And I'll say this, brother, Dr. Watkins, I've been in the so-called worst schools in the city of Chicago. I started at Westinghouse on the west side of Chicago. From there, I went to a school called Chicago Vocational on the south side. And I was at Simeon. These are my teaching schools, which is also on the south side of Chicago. While I was at Simeon, Jabari Parker, who was in the NBA at one time, as well as Kendrick Nunn, who's in the NBA right now, Steve Taylor, who was the #1 basketball player in the state. These were my former students at Simeon. And the star basketball players and football players, they had the same love and respect for me as all of the other students, not because I treated them any differently, but I gave them the education that they absolutely deserve. When I left Simeon, I went to a school called Percy L. Julian, where I became an assistant principal. And when I got to Percy L. Julian, which is on 103rd Street in Chicago, if your viewers are familiar with the city, it's in a very rough neighborhood in the city of Chicago. And, you know, Dr. Watkins, when I got there was fights every day. It's all the things that you think could happen were happening when I got to Percy L. Julian. And when I left Julian, we turned the entire school around. We increased the graduation. We brought the fights down. All of these things happened because of the work that I did at Percy L. Julian. From Percy L. Julian, I went to a school called Nancy B. Jefferson, which this school is located inside of the juvenile detention center, meaning all of the young people in Chicago who are arrested, they put them there. And when I was the assistant principal at that school, and the same impact that I had at every other school in Chicago, I had that same impact at the school Nancy B. Jefferson. And brothers and sisters, when I got to Nancy B. Jefferson, they told me it was 85% Black boys. We're talking about the jail school, 85% Black boys. And when I got there, I started to build relationships with these brothers in the jail school right here in Chicago. We hear about the shooting, we hear about the killing, we hear about all of that. I'm in the school with the ones that are doing it every single day. And when I got there, Dr. Watkins, this was the first time that they could put all the young brothers in the same room together from the various gangs, the BDs, the GDs, the Vice Lords, the Four Corner Hustlers, the Black Souls, the Latin Kings, the EBK. They couldn't put them together in the same room before. But when I built relationships with these young brothers that are locked up, this was the first time they could put them all together in the same room. Also, while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, you could imagine at the school where people are incarcerated, nobody's thinking about graduation. So there was no talk, there was no move, there was no desire on the part of these young people to actually go to school and graduate. But again, at Nancy B. Jefferson, the school that's inside of the juvenile detention center, I was blessed to increase the graduation rates of the young brothers and sisters that are locked up. So much so that them going to school and getting their education and graduating became the conversation of the detention center. I'll give you this one example and then we'll wrap this particular question up. A young brother came to me one day while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, and he had never been to high school a day in his life. He dropped out of school in the 8th grade. And when I walked into the classroom, all the brothers in the classroom were talking to me about how they were looking forward to graduating. And this brother pulled me to the side and said, Mr. Muhammad, now this is my first day meeting him. He said, Mr. Muhammad, do you think I'll be able to graduate? Now, I'm not gonna lie to the brother and say, yeah, you know, I told him, I said, if you do what we asked you to do, we'll make sure you graduate. My point is that we changed the conversation of the young brothers that were incarcerated so much so that they were looking forward to graduation rather than looking forward to something negative. So this is the work that I've done for the last 25 years in the city of Chicago.
Wow. Well, you know, that's really interesting you say that. So, so I think that I'm wondering what everybody else is wondering is what happened. You know, like what you know. And I really want to get your perspective on what's wrong with the school system. I mean, I've read all the statistics that most of our kids, they go to these public schools across the country, especially Chicago. They come out, they can't read, can't write, can't
Absolutely.
do math.
Right.
They're not prepared for the world. And you were having this type of an effect. I'd be curious to know, and I'm sure you're going to get to that in the slides. I'll let you kind of
Yes,
move
sir.
at your pace. But I think everyone wants to know, like, what happened here and what's the injustice that's going on in their system that
Yes, sir.
is stopping kids from getting access to educators that can be effective.
So, brother Dr. Boyce, the thing that happened is what has been happening in Chicago for a very long time. Black people have, and when I say Chicago, in the city, but as well as in Chicago public schools, Black children and Black families have been getting the short end of the stick. And I talked about it when we talked about how they systematically closed over 53 schools and the Black and majority Black neighborhoods. And those children that were in those schools fell through the cracks, right? They did it when they removed Black teachers from the classroom systematically. And if we study the history of Chicago public schools, it's always been where the Black community has been disenfranchised. In the 60s, when they did not want to integrate the schools in Chicago, they put trailers on the parking lots of the schools called Willis wagons, right? And rather than send the Black children who were in the school and the schools were overcrowded, rather than put them in the white schools, what they did is they put trailers on the parking lots and they stuffed the Black children in trailers. And this is when in the 60s, the students stood up to protest the Willis wagons. Well, the same thing is happening today. The same discriminatory practice, the same inferior education that when we look at the results, we look at the data and we see that the students aren't reading on grade level, right? We see that their math achievement is not what it is. And rather than solve the problem, because every problem has a solution, CPS wants to gloss over the problem. And I'm not the only educator in Chicago, Black educator that has had success with Black children. Your listeners will say, they'll say, well, once you started having success, you should have known that you were going to be targeted. And that's 100% true. There's a element, unfortunately, in Chicago public schools and in not just Chicago, because it's across the country, that do not want Black children to be successful. They do not want Black children to achieve. And if you come in as a Black educator and you start to have success with Black children, then you become a target. You become a target of white educators who have in their mind that they're the superhero. They got the cape on. They think, well, I'm going to go to the hood and I'm going to save these little Black children. Then they come to the hood with the cape on and they realize that, trying to get Black children to act like you and be like you is not really saving Black children, and Black children resist that. And then you take your cape off and you just there for a check, right? But then a Black educator working with these very same children gets the results that you cannot get. So you have white educators who feel threatened by a Black educator. Now, let me share with you all, just so I can give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I was at a school called Chicago Vocation, this is a true story, I would give my students what is called a Black History fact. at the beginning of the class every day. And the way that I got to that, Dr. Watkins, is when I was on the west side at Westinghouse, I had a young lady tell me one day, she said, Mr. Muhammad, I wished I learned more about Black history, because I asked her, well, how could I improve my class? She said, well, I wish I learned more about Black history. My heart was broken into pieces, brothers and sisters, because here I am, a Black man, a member of the Nation of Islam, and I have a student telling me that she wished she learned more about Black history. I made a commitment to myself that I'm never going to have another student tell me that they wish they learned more about Black history. So this is before critical race theory. This is before all these white liberals are talking about, you know, racism. And this is years before all of these conversations. I made a commitment to myself that I was going to give my students a Black history fact at the beginning of the class every day. So now go ahead.
Can I answer this real quick, Brother Muhammad? So,
yes, sir.
did you get pushback? Sometimes I've seen where there would be white educators who would say that it's racist for the Black teacher to, if there's any white students in the class or Latino students in the class, that it's racist to, you know, to focus on the Black issue. Of course, you know, I don't agree with that, but did people give you that kind of pushback?
They didn't give me that kind of pushback, Dr. Watkins. And the environments that I was in, brother, were 100% Black. Mm-hmm. So like at Westinghouse, it was an all Black school. CBS, it was all Black. At the majority of the schools, it wasn't until I got to Nancy B. Jefferson, because it was 85% Black, but it was 14% Latino. So that was the first time that I was in an environment where you had Latino students. But the thing, when I was at Chicago Vocational, and I was teaching these Black history facts, and the students loved my class so much that they would go into the white teachers' classes and talk about my class. And the white teachers became jealous. So rather than teach their class, what the white teachers would do is take the students' notebooks and read about what I'm teaching in my class. So this is the level of white fragility, or whatever you want to call it, insanity, that I had to experience from I'm not in Mississippi, brothers and sisters. I'm not in Alabama. I'm not in Georgia. I'm not in Louisiana. I'm in Chicago. And in Chicago, I'm at a school with 100% Black students, 100%. And there are white teachers who are mad because I'm teaching Black history to Black students in a Black school. This is what we're dealing with. This is the type of plantation that we're dealing with. So to answer your question, brother, when you have effective Black teachers that don't have the approval of white people, then those very white people are the ones that plot against you. So one of the white teachers at Chicago Vocational, I confronted him about some negative remarks that he shared with a student about me. And I went to him and confronted him. And when I confronted him, he wrote a 3-page letter to the principal saying that either I need to go or Mr. Muhammad needs to go. Now, I need y'all to really kind of process that. Here I am teaching Black history to Black children, and Black children's eyes are becoming open and they're falling in love with education. This white teacher gets upset. He doesn't come to me. He goes to a student and says something crazy about me to a student. When I find out, I'll go straight to him. Now, he's in a Black neighborhood, and he writes a letter to the principal saying either Mr. Muhammad goes or I go. Well, he ended up leaving, but I'm just trying to show you the insanity of white supremacy, and that they're in our neighborhoods trying to dictate to our children. So, Dr. Watkins, not just myself, but other educators, this is what we have to deal with in Chicago when we are effective with Black children. Every school that I've gone into, the grades have gone up, the test scores have gone up. And, we have the evidence to prove that, because it's not difficult to educate Black children. But when we have these interferences, then it becomes difficult. So we can educate our children. You have Black educators that are very successful, but we have interference from the district as well as other teachers who don't want to see our children educated.
Okay. If you want to move to the next slide, you can. I don't know if you wanted to do more of your presentation.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to also, have that conversation with you. And so maybe in a minute we could do we can go full screen, because we're on YouTube, and people they have that one image of the golden apple nominee on the
Okay, yeah, I
school.
can close that out, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we can go
Yeah.
back to full screen.
Yeah. And all you have to do
Okay.
is close it out. Yeah. So let me, because I want to talk to you about the and everybody who just came in, I was speaking with Abdul Muhammad, and Abdul was unfairly removed from the Chicago public school systems. He's an outstanding teacher, outstanding principal, and there was a huge injustice here. And I want to move beyond. I want to sort of look at that bigger picture too, brother Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
So um, here's what I see from where I stand. I see a system where teachers unions, with their linkage with the Democratic Party,
Right.
there are scenarios it seems where their interests are put ahead of the interests of the children. I'm personally of the belief that any school that's failing in the education of Black children should not get supported or funded. I feel that that there's not much incentive for them to see to it that our kids are taken care of. So what I see is that when you come in and you're coming into a system that's run and controlled by people who are not Black,
Right.
it's going to be odds stacked against you from the very beginning, right? And I've seen it a million times. I knew a person who happened to be in Chicago public schools. She was a PhD that was very enthusiastic about educating our kids. She went to a school where the student body was 100% Black, the teacher body was 100% white,
Right.
and which it gives a plantation feel, right?
Right. Absolutely.
These plantations are everywhere,
Yes.
because we are a commodity. They, from what I understand, they get paid money for every
Right.
head that's in there, almost like we're heads of cattle, right? And,
Absolutely.
and nobody lets the sheep or the cows run the farm,
Right.
right? So that they just, so it's no different from the prison system, etc. So she goes into school. The kids love her. She loves them because she's educating them with love, which is inspiring them to want to do their best. And then one day they just brought her in the office and said, "We're sorry, we're going to have to let you go." And so it seems to me that this is a common challenge that's going
Right.
on. And in Chicago, a city with so much corruption, I mean, Chicago has a huge
Absolutely.
history of corruption. What are the what would be the solution? I mean, of course, I'd want to see you in a position to educate our
Right.
kids, but it almost seems like if you were reinstated in that system, it would be throwing you back in the lion's den. What do you think about that?
Well, brother, I definitely agree with you, and I'll just share this to your point. Um, when I got to the school where all the quote unquote controversy started, it's called Lynn Bloom High School, which is a selective enrollment school. And it's on the south side in a neighborhood called Inglewood, which is a majority Black neighborhood, where if you watch Chicago news, or even if you don't, then you hear a lot of about shootings and killings and different things going on in the Inglewood neighborhood, right? So I was selected by an all Black LSC. When I'm not gonna say all Black because it was a Latina sister on the LSC, but the school is about 70 to 75% Black and about 20% Latino, right? So I was selected by the LSC to lead the school. The LSC only has two jobs. Their job is to hire the principal and to approve the budget. And when I was selected, I didn't know at the time, like what you said, Dr. Boyce, I'm in a Black school and the staff is 95% white. We're not talking about in 1950. We're talking about in 2023. So my first day, when I say my first day, I'm talking about when all the staff members came. I walk into the building my first day when all the staff are back. It's 95% white. The only Black people in the school are the janitors and the security guard. And what you just said, it's a sprinkling of Black teachers, maybe two, and one of them I hired over the summer. But the staff is 95% white. Janitor, security guard, that's where you find all your Black people. And when I walked into the school that day, I said to myself, this is a plantation. So this is part of, so when I come into this school as a Black man, this school is majority Black, 75% Black. And they've never had a Black principal since the school reopened in 2005. So all of my predecessors at this Black school in this Black neighborhood have all been white males. And of course, they hired one another. So I'm in a school full of white staff members. And when I walked in the door as Abdul Muhammad, of course, people lost their minds. It's just what it is. And I can't tell you the full, because it's just so much that happened. The people in Chicago public schools, when I say the people, I'm talking about the Chicago public schools officials downtown. When they realized that the Black LSC hired me, they lost their minds. and started to call the LSC and try to get them to change their decision. When the white teachers realized that they hired me, they lost their minds, and that's how we got to this point. So you're
wait, hold on, wait. So you mean to tell me that America does not love and fully accept the Nation of Islam? You mean they don't?
Hey,
you mean white folks don't love us? Come on,
brother. I'm under no illusion. I'm under no illusion. But and I'll try to show it in just a minute. Because with this particular case, so the thing that came out, Dr. Watkins, is when they were trying to stop me from becoming the principal, even before I walked in the door, there were conversations with LSC members, local school council members, about my religion. Well, he's in the Nation of Islam. There was a Facebook chat, which I'll show in a minute, a teacher Facebook chat. I'm not even at the school. School year hasn't started yet. But the teachers are on Facebook saying, well, he's in the Nation of Islam. They hate whites and Jews and gays and all this other kind of stuff, right? So, they're sending anonymous letters to the Board of Education. So at that time, I didn't know any of this. So I didn't know this at that time. It wasn't until all of the other drama started to happen that this information started to come out. But again, so you asked me about going into the lion's den, right? Every Black educator that is working in the public schools, we're in the lion's den right now. But the reason, and I can speak for myself, and I know I speak for the majority of Black educators, the reason that we're in the lion's den is because that's where our children are. Our children are in the lion's den, and we're in there literally saving Black children's lives. I'm in brother, this school is 95% white. Now, a parent came to me. We ain't talking about, this is in the Black community. This is not 1945. This is 2023. A parent came to me and said, Mr. Muhammad, they do not have Black history programs at the school. Will you bring for Black History Month? I was like, what? So how is it that we're in a Black school with Black children in a Black neighborhood, 95% white staff, and they don't even have Black History Month programs? So, of course, we brought that to the school for the time that I was there. But again, Dr. Watkins, to your point, our children are in the lion's den. So this is why Black educators are in the lion's den trying to fish them out. But it is a plantation, and it is a system. And I want to say this because I don't want to be remiss in bringing this up. So I want to ask everybody to to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. The website is justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. Now, on this website, we're asking everybody to sign the petition. There is a petition on this website that you can sign, because what's going on with me, it started with me, Dr. Watkins, but when they came against me, they thought I was going to do like all the other principals do when they target them, and that's lay down. And I didn't lay down. When they came against me, and they came against me with lies, I was not going to lay down. I decided to fight. And when I stood up to fight, other Black principals who the same thing happened to them, similar, they stood up as well. So we're in a fight right now to expose what's going on in Chicago public schools. You can go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. The first thing we want you to do is you can register for the website and sign the petition. And then also on that website, there is a link where you can email Mayor Brandon Johnson, because Mayor Brandon Johnson is the decision maker in all of what's going on with Chicago public school principals, right? Because the mayor is over the schools, right? So there's a link where you can email Mayor Brandon Johnson. The email is all you have to do is click his name. The email self-populates, and all you have to do is click send. So if everybody watching can go on Justice for Abdul Muhammad, it only take you a second. Sign the petition, take you less than 30 seconds. Email the mayor. Again, you click his name, the email populates, and all you have to do is click send. You don't even have to write the email. And then if you choose, you can donate to the GoFundMe. There's a GoFundMe on there as well. And there's several videos that kind of explain what's going on with my case as well as other cases. So to your point, Dr. Watkins, yeah, we are in the lion's den, and we're fighting to save Black children who are trapped in the same den that the Black educator is trapped in. And I want to share something real quick. And I'm sharing this, brothers and sisters, so you all can see how serious it is in the city of Chicago. And I'm glad you brought that up. I'll share this first, Dr. Watkins, so we can see. Hold on.
I know Maurice Muhammad is asking, is there a lawsuit?
Yes, there is. And I'll talk about that while I'm trying to share my screen. So we filed
Are you able to share? Okay.
Yeah, I believe I can. I believe I
Okay.
can. Yeah. So it's the multitasking. That's
Oh no, take your time. Take your time,
okay.
brother.
So brothers and sisters, the real reason that I was attacked, and let me say this: I don't want you all to think that they only attacked me because I'm a Muslim, because that was the real reason. That was the root of everything. But again, if you're a black educator that's having success with black children, just like you mentioned, Dr. Watkins, you're going to be attacked. The difference with me is that they just came with everything that they had and came with 83 lies. So here is the Facebook chat that was with the teachers at Limbalone. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but if you look towards the bottom, the guy in the Facebook chat is saying that he talked to somebody, an informant, which reminds of COINTELPRO, right?
Yeah.
And he says, well, uh, he will be voted with a contract. No one wants to go through this process again. Keep in mind, he belongs to the church, Nation of Islam. I really hope everyone is wrong. Happy Father's Day. What's his religion got to do with it? Look at Nation of Islam. Look up. They hate Jews, whites, and gays. So this was the real reason, right, behind their vehement opposition to me being with black children in a black neighborhood in the Limbalone at the Limbalone school. So I'm gonna escape out of that, and I'll answer the brother's question. He asked, "Is there a lawsuit?" Well, anytime there's discrimination. So with me, there's discrimination because the thing that happened with me, my white predecessors, who were the principals of Limbalone, were treated totally different than I was, and because of that discrimination. Then we filed a complaint with the EEOC. So, of course, right now it's just a complaint. It's not a lawsuit yet. It's just a complaint. And we're waiting to go through that process. So the EEOC is doing their investigation right now. So that is definitely something that we have put in place months ago, you know.
Okay. Well, well, I'll tell you, brother. What I'm really trying to figure out is, what's our longer term solution as well.
Yes, sir.
What I really see is they built this house, this
Right.
system that where there's a lot of money involved. Our
Right.
kids are worth
Right.
billions of dollars.
Absolutely.
I
Right.
believe we traffic our children to the public schools. We traffic them to the corporate plantation, so others can make money from them. And I see what's going on, and I my best hope would be that the system could be modified, through legal action, things like that. Um, and that would be ideal in this scenario, since it would be hard to replace a multi-billion-dollar educational system,
Right.
especially since it's funded by taxpayers. But given the failed history of integration in general in this country, um, I'll admit I'm pessimistic. I feel that, like a great educator like yourself, I would also like to see scenarios where somebody sees how great you are at what you do, and we raise money and build schools of our own, and it just lets you run a school like that. Like this Freedom
Absolutely.
Home Academy International, the Muhammad University of Islam, and
Right. Right.
schools that are educating our kids at a very high level. I think while we're simultaneously fighting inside their system,
Right.
I
We're
wonder
doing
if
something
there's
for self at the same time.
yeah, I think evacuating the
Absolutely.
burning building might be
I'm glad
something to
you
consider too.
so I'm gonna share this screen, Dr. Watkins, because you just took the words right out of my mouth when you said evacuating the burning building. So the thing that we have to realize is the house that our children are in is already on fire, right?
Mm,
And what I'm sharing with you is just recent news, and I'm only dealing with Chicago public schools, just recent news about Chicago public schools. So it just came out. This is January 16th. Chicago public schools, hundreds of new sexual abuse allegations that Chicago public schools, the OIG reported recently here in Chicago. And when they came out with the numbers, it was 446 sexual abuse allegations. So we're dealing with the situation, and this is not just Chicago. This is around the country where you have black children in schools and the house is on fire. I had a conversation with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I had several conversations with him about this. And one of the things that we talked about was either we going to make the system serve everyone, black, brown, and white equally, or we have to take our children out of this system. And that's just where it is, brother. We cannot continue to allow our children to be in a system that's destroying them mentally. And our tax dollars are paying for them to destroy our children. So just recently, what I'm sharing right now just happened in 1 week. In 1 week in Chicago, we had 2 students that were shot. This is January 26th, this article. 2 students that were shot in a school in downtown Chicago, killed in front of the school. No parent should send their child to school and the child is killed at the school. No student should go to a school and you come home from school and your mother or father asks you, what happened at school today? And your answer is a double homicide. This happened right outside in front of the school. 2, not shot and hurt, but shot and killed right in front of the school. And this school is in downtown Chicago. Now, this happened all within the same week, right? This happened today. Like this happened 2 hours, 3 hours ago. There was a student killed on the north side of Chicago, and 2 students were wounded. One is in critical condition and one is in stable condition. So when we talk about the house being on fire, either we have to, so it's like a double-edged sword. We have to rescue our children, right? Like you said. And then at the same time, we have to build something independent for ourselves and our children, because what is in place right now is not serving Black children. So you're 100% correct. I'm gonna share this last one. We had a student that was shot at another school. So we had already 4 children murdered in 1 week at school. Like, that's insane. Like, we shouldn't even be having this conversation right now, right? I'll say this, that this also lets us know, or should inform us of why we need to have our people, Black educators in schools with Black children. Because it's one thing to deal with something after the fact, but it's another thing to prevent these things from happening. And people will say, oh man, you can't stop that from happening. But I'll tell you this, Dr. Boyce, at every school that I've gone to, when I was at Douglas High School on the west side of Chicago, and I was the principal at Douglas High School, this was a school that was a thorn in the side of Chicago public schools, because nobody could go in there and get the school under control. It's in the Austin community, and Austin has the highest homicide rate in the city of Chicago, and it's been like that for the last maybe 10 years. So this particular high school, there was nobody that could go in and get the school under control. And Chicago Public Schools sent me to Douglas. They thought I was going to fail. They thought I was going to go in there and the school was going to collapse on my head. But what ended up happening is the same thing that happened in every other school. I went into Douglas like I went into every other school, and I poured love into those Black children. And when I poured love into those Black children, they responded. And right there in Douglas, right there in Austin, they used to come up to the school and try to shoot students and fight students. We shut all of that down. They used to try to fight in the school and smoke weed. All of that was happening in the school was eliminated because there was the presence of a Black educator who loved Black children. So there is a solution, but the Chicago Public Schools leadership does not want the solution because they don't agree with the source of where the solution comes from. It's just like when the Brothers in the Nation went to the projects right here in DC, in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, in New York. They went to the projects, in the most violent projects in Chicago and New York and DC. And in a matter of months, these open air drug markets were peaceful and children could play outside. But the thing that I need your listeners to understand, and why we keep having this same fight, is because white people's feelings are more important than Black people's lives. I'm gonna say it again. White people's feelings are more important than Black people's lives. If I can go into a school and save the lives of Black children, why would any white person have a problem with that? Unless in their mind, how they feel about me because I'm a Muslim is more important than me actually going in these schools and saving the lives of Black children. Why would you stop the brothers in the FOI from patrolling the housing projects and saving Black people's lives because you disagree with somebody's religion? That's insane. But that is what we face when we go in our community and do the work that we do and save our people. White people's feelings become more important than Black people's lives.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all, brother. I think here's what I see from where I stand. I see I'm very disappointed with the mayor so far. I have not seen anything from him to tell me that he's anything other than a uh, uh, an occupied puppet Manchurian candidate who was being controlled by forces that we cannot see. Like they talk about that dark energy in outer space when they say that 96% of the matter in outer space you can't see is dark energy and dark matter. Well, with him, I see just dark politics in terms of where he's handling certain issues like the migrant crisis and all that. But also I see a city, Chicago, that has a long history of corruption.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that with there being billions of dollars on the line, and teachers unions being so powerful, uh, most people, it seems, are not going to let anybody disrupt their bread and butter. And especially given the way they've mistreated the Nation of Islam, mischaracterized deliberately,
Right.
propaganda. We know these things, right? We've seen this, and I think that the bigger thing, I will say this, I'm getting exhausted from being mad about it.
Right. Right.
I don't know what that answer would be exactly. Maybe staying mad about it and fighting them might be the proper solution at some point on some level. But I almost feel like the thing is the educational system for many people is not a space where they're being given knowledge and wisdom. It's a space
Right.
where they're being indoctrinated into society. And I would imagine that the presence of someone like you, we know you're exactly what they need. They need the Nation of Islam. Every Black person in America needs the Nation of Islam, whether they know it or not. But then also they need Black men in the space,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
All this a lot of this killing is driven by the broken families,
Right.
the missing fathers. That's what it is. In case anybody's listening, that's what it is. Your father, they took away not just the fathers, but a lot of male role models, mentors, leaders. Even the disappearance of gang leaders destroyed the structures of the gangs.
Right.
So when Brother Muhammad is in that school,
Right.
the boys, I know little boys like I was, respond differently to him than they
Absolutely.
do to a white woman from the suburbs.
Absolutely.
That is that, brother. That's as simple as 2+2,
It's
right?
just that
We know
simple.
the answer,
Right.
right? So to me, if the answer is as simple as 2+2, but they keep telling you we know 2+2 is 4, they keep telling us 2+2 is 186.
Right.
Um, and we say no, 2+2 is 4, and we yell and we say it over and over again, and we say it's unjust that they keep telling us that 2+2 is 186, and they say no, Negro, 2+2 is 186. I wonder what's gonna be that solution where we can come and get around that, because I don't feel the Chicago public school system deserves you.
Yes.
I don't feel that they now the students deserve you. And I think that there are many avenues if we are able to over time develop institutional infrastructure that can be spaces within which they can still engage with you.
Yes, sir.
For example, right here in this platform space, we bring together hundreds of people every morning. Every morning, we do financial consciousness training. We're educating right here
Right.
online every morning, every single day. It don't cost hardly nothing to be there. It costs a little bit because we got to raise our own money. We can't go begging other people for their money, but it's very inexpensive. And I'm a college professor. I can educate as well as any white person in this school system, probably better because I understand the needs of the people. I think that there has to be some other alternatives. I get it though. We'll never get to a day where kids are not being sent off to school. That's gonna happen, but it seems like there's got to be a better solution. I mean, but by the way, everybody, I hope everybody will go and take a look at the brother's website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, and whatever there's there, sign it, send the letters. Let me know that you're going to do that because I think that he needs our support, and I will support you, personally. Whatever I can do.
Yes, sir.
But I think just long term, I just think it's so interesting. What is interesting to me about your case is that it really highlights the depth of the problem. You know,
Absolutely.
here you have a person who is on his game, doing an excellent job, and you're working that hard to keep him out. It's almost like when they try to convince you that Minister Louis Farrakhan is a dangerous
Right.
man, but you literally will have a rapper on
Right.
Instagram rapping about killing people, raping women, stealing money, you know,
Shooting up the block,
you
all
know,
of it. Right.
using drugs, and they think that's all fine. They love that. That's
Right.
entertainment. That person will be doing the interview with Joe Biden, but then they'll somehow turn around and say, yeah, but Farrakhan, he's dangerous. And you're like, well, what did he do? What's so dangerous about him? What did he do?
Absolutely.
And they don't answer the question, because we know what the answer is. The answer is that dangerous in America is anybody who is truly righteously committed to the advancement of black people. That's what makes
Right.
you dangerous. That's what makes me dangerous. That's what makes him
Absolutely.
dangerous. And I can tell you, I know for years, man. I've been most public schools won't let me near the kids,
Hmm.
and I understand why. Because I can't even go to prisons. I tried to visit a brother in the penitentiary. And I don't have a criminal record at all. They
Right.
Googled me, and they spent a year and a half telling me that I could not come in, and they didn't
Right.
have to tell me why. They just said you can't come visit. And I know why. It's because when you are a person that can liberate the mind of a black person, that becomes an
Absolutely.
inherent threat to white supremacy. We know this, right? So going forward, and I want to say thank you for coming in, and you can feel free to share more. I'm going to be
Mhm.
all ears and just listen to you.
Yes, sir.
What else can folks do to support, stay engaged? I want I'm encouraging everybody to do that. What else can they do?
The Dr. Watkins, the Chicago Public School District, the biggest thing that they're trying to do is cover everything up. Which that's what they were going to do. Again, this is a pattern that they've done for years as far as Black educators. And I want to kind of share with you all, because I know we hear a lot about the school to prison pipeline, right, with our young people. And for your listeners, viewers, every school right now that our children are in is already a school to prison pipeline. The prison pipeline is already there. What happens is a Black educator comes in and creates another pathway for that child to go down other than prison. When you look at the life of Malcolm X, when Malcolm X went to school and his white teacher told him that he would never be a lawyer, that they would not hire a Black lawyer, and white people wouldn't hire a Black lawyer, that he should be a carpenter, that was the day that Malcolm X dropped out of school. And what I need all of you parents to understand is the same thing is happening to your child right now in the public school system. When your child come home and you ask them, baby, what you learned today? And they say, I didn't learn anything. They're not lying to you. They're telling you the truth. They did not learn anything. It's the same dynamic as Malcolm X. So this man just told Malcolm, you ain't going to be nothing. But the teacher who's not teaching your child is telling your child what? You're not going to be anything. So that is the school to prison pipeline right there. The day that Malcolm X heard that from his teacher, that's when he turned to a life of crime. So, and I want to just share this because we have a brother here in Chicago, and he's one of the principals that was removed as well. His name is Gerald Morrow from Dunbar High School. He's been removed from his school for a year, and he has not been informed of what he's done. So the thing that I need all of you all to understand is that for principals in Chicago, there's no due process. Meaning, when they removed me and I have the email, they said, I asked them, well, what did I do? And they said, well, we'll let you know in 2 to 3 weeks. So they took me out, didn't let me know what I did. Brother Gerald Morrow has been out of Dunbar High School since December of last year, December of 2022, pardon me. He's been out for over a year, and they still have not told him what he's done. So there's no due process. There's no, well, let me give you this evidence to prove that what you're saying is wrong. In my case, there were 7 white teachers who told 83 lies to the law department. And the white woman in the law department named Kelly Tarrant did not fact check any lie that these white teachers told. But when Gerald Morrow was at Dunbar, when he got there, there was like 200 students in the school. He built it all the way back up to 500. When he got there, he brought programs into the school. Programs like a barber college into the school. He brought a cosmetology program into the school to give these students pathways, right? Other than prison, give them another pathway. He brought a pilot program into the school. And we had young people that were earning their pilot's license while in high school. So when they removed Gerald Morrow, even though he brought all of these programs, you would think that they would leave those programs in the school. The first thing that they did when they took Gerald Morrow out of the school is they removed every program that he put in the school that gave Black children an alternative pathway. So the attack on Black educators is really an attack on Black children and Black families. And that's what we want everybody to really understand. And I'll say this, it's not just happening in Chicago, because now that I'm on these podcasts and television shows and whatnot, you know, I get calls from educators all around the country telling me that it happened to them or it's happening to them. And, you know, they see me on television or whatnot and reach out to me. So it is, it's an attack on Black children by removing Black educators in the classroom. So as Dr. Watkins is saying, brothers and sisters, we have to work on two tracks. We have to save our children that's in the public schools. We have to save them, right? But at the same time, we have to create something independent for our children as well, so we can educate them without all, and not just create it independent, but create it independent with our tax money that we paying into a system that doesn't educate our children. So we don't want to just take our children out of the school and the district keeps the tax money that we're paying. Absolutely not. In the schools, in the various cities where you are, some people support what is called a voucher program. Now, the Democrats, who've never been friends of Black people, they don't want Black people to support a voucher program. But the voucher program allows you to send your tax dollars wherever your child goes. And that's what we need. As a Black parent, you should be able to choose the school where your child attends. And you should not be forced to put your child in a school that is not educating them properly. So when you go when you go and meet with people and want to know what to ask for, you want your tax dollars to follow your child to the school that they go to. We don't want to take our children out and let the same oppressor keep the money. So we want to fight for a program that's like the voucher program.
Well, you know what, brother? I'm gonna tell you, I'm 100% in favor of that. In the Black Business School, we live by what we call the Black Core of Three. The Black Core of Three is that we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black-owned businesses. That's our whole reason for existence. That's what we believe in, and that's what we've been sticking with for the last 15 years. And I want to say thank you, brother, for sharing your story.
Yes,
and I'm gonna tell you, I hope everybody will support this, brother. I think that what I also like about your situation is, as unfortunate as it is, and I hate to see you go through this because you don't deserve this. But if there is a benefit, I would say that it is that we need to expose that corruption and that racial bias and
right.
and I've gone through it, you know, my stage. I don't know you now. How old are you? I'm 52. But you don't look 52. But then again,
Yeah.
you're Nation of Islam. For all I know, you could be
You know,
80.
we always look young. I'm
Yes, y'all do.
51, so yeah, I'm just a year younger than you.
See,
And
that's not fair. Yeah, see, y'all got to stop that. That's
but
I
I'll say
knew
this.
it. I knew it because you have the energy of a 40-year-old or 38-year-old.
Yes,
But go ahead, brother, please.
I'll say this, brother. There is corruption, and I gotta say this, Dr. Watkins. I know we at the end, but I because you talked about corruption a couple of times, and the brothers in the nation will come and talk to me tomorrow real harsh if I don't say what I'm about to say. When I got to this school, Lindblom, right now, y'all got to understand, it's 95% white teachers, right? It's 90% Black and brown students, or 95% Black and brown, right? And when I got to the school, the first day, my first day, July 7th, I walked in the door and there were 15 people working in the school and there were 0 students in the building. I'm going to say that again. It's exactly, I'm looking like you looking. My first day, I walk in, there's 15 people working in a school that's under construction and there's 0 students in the building. Immediately raised a red flag in my mind. My first day, I sent an email asking the question, who are all these people in the building, right? So we know what they were doing. They were riding the clock. They were working and they were not, they were getting paid and they were not working, right? That's my first day at the school. My second day at the school, July 8th, 2022, I asked the then assistant principal, I said, are teachers working over the summer? She said, yes, because if they're working and getting paid. So I said, well, what are they doing? You know, making curriculums, whatnot. I said, okay, well, I need you to email them and ask them to put all their work in this Google folder, because you can't justify paying them if we don't have any evidence that they actually did some work, right? So to this day, right? That was July 8th of 2022. To this day, those folders there's no work been deposited in those folders. So on my first day, you have 15 people working, no students in the building. My second day, you have teachers working from home, getting paid, but have produced no work, right? My first and second day, we're talking about corruption, right? This is what when I walked in the door, this is what I began to expose at this school with a staff that's 95% white. Then later in the year, I go to the homecoming football game. There's hundreds of people in the stand of the homecoming football game. And a brother who I hired as a retired athletic coordinator, he said, Mr. Muhammad, did you get the financial report from the homecoming game? I said, financial report? So that Monday, I reached out to the athletic director who's white and the clerk who's black. And I asked him, well, where's the financial report from the homecoming football game? So the black clerk and the white athletic director just made up a report. They just made up some numbers, right? It's very suspicious, right? So, but I didn't have any evidence. I couldn't say, well, this is wrong. All these people in the stands, hundreds of people, and this money don't match the number of people that I saw. But I could have said that, but I didn't have evidence. So then it hit me that the homecoming game was the 5th game of the season. So then I said, well, I didn't go to them. I said, well, where's the report from the other 4 games? They weren't even keeping records at the school. So I went to the stadium director and I got the financial report from the stadium director because I knew I couldn't trust these 2 individuals. And I brought the black clerk and the white athletic director into my office. And I asked them, I said, where is the money from the previous football game? Previous football games. The black clerk didn't say anything. Well, no, first time she did. She said, they both said, there is no money. I pulled out the report from the stadium report, and I gave each one of them a copy. And then I asked them the question again. I said, where is the money from the previous football game? The black clerk didn't say nothing because she knew she was busted. The white athletic director said, oh, that's my money. I said, that's your money? She said, yeah, that's my, Dr. Watkins. I'm not making this up. She said, that's my money. I brought money to make change. So that's my money. I said, Miss Davis, her name is Christina Davis. I said, Miss Davis, if you sold 1 ticket for $5, you have to turn the $5 into the school. She left my office saying, no, that's my money. That was on a Thursday. Then she emailed me Saturday, which I have. And the thing about my case, Dr. Watkins, I have documentation for everything that I'm saying. I have all the emails, all the evidence, all the everything. This woman emailed me on Saturday and said, oh, I realized the mistake that I made. I have the money for you on Monday. This white athletic director had black folks' money in her personal bank account. So now that's one, right? So you got the people working that's getting paid with no children, my first and second day there. Now we have an athletic director who's not turning in money for sporting events, right? You're talking about black folks' money. Less than a month later, I find out that another teacher has $5,000 of black folks' money in her personal bank account. Then about a week after that, another teacher has $4,000 of black folks' money in a fundraising account, and he's spending the money. So listen, all of these people that I exposed, right? All of them still work for Chicago Public Schools. The same athletic director was covering up student injuries. There were 4 cheerleaders that got injured in an off-site practice. And the parents were scared to report it because they thought their children would get kicked off the cheerleading team. The white athletic director, the same woman who was stealing the money from the football games, this woman lied to the Chicago Public School officials and said that I knew about this off-site illegal practice. So you know me, Dr. Watkins, I'm trained by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he teaches us the quickest way to manifest a contradiction is to bring everybody together. So when I brought everybody together, all the people from CPS, her and everybody else that was a part of this, then she couldn't lie because, and I didn't know she lied until later. But when we brought everybody together, then she admitted, oh, Mr. Muhammad didn't know anything about this. Now, Chicago Public Schools all of these people still work for Chicago Public Schools. The white athletic director, they moved her to another school. She's no longer at Lindblom because we exposed all of this. So they moved her somewhere else. She's working at the school with the former principal, the former white principal of Lindblom. She's at his school. This is like when you talked about corruption, this is the level of corruption that we're dealing with. So when people say, well, why are you fighting so hard? This is why I'm fighting so hard, because these people lied, right? And I'm not going to lay down. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop. So this is the corruption that I walked in. When I walked in the door at Lindblom, this is what I found. And this is what I exposed. And this is why these people are so upset, as well as me being a Muslim in the Nation of Islam. But, you know, I just wanted to share that, Dr. Watkins. And I mean, this is not, I'm just telling, and I'm just scratching the surface, brothers and sisters, with the corruption that when I came to Lindblom that I found. Now, I need y'all to understand, it's a black school. It's a black school with black children, and you have white teachers with thousands of dollars of black folks' money in their personal bank accounts, and nothing happened to any of those white teachers. I need y'all to make sure you go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, sign the petition. There are videos. You can share those videos on social media. Chicago Public Schools wants to cover it up. They thought they would be able to use these false charges to get me taken out, and that I was going to be quiet and just move along like other black principals have done before me. And I couldn't do that, so I stood up and fought. And when I stood up and fought, other black principals joined the fight. So I want you all to join that website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. And brothers and sisters, I'm like really scratching the surface because there's so much to this case and so many layers, but I don't want to belabor the point. We're dealing with corruption. Every year for the last 20 years, Chicago has been voted the #1 city of corruption in the United States of America. It's just, and y'all can Google it. I mean, it's been voted the most corrupt city in the United States every year for the last 20 years.
Wow.
So, but now again, and I'll end with this, Dr. Watkins, why, like, Brother Muhammad, why are you fighting so hard? Because if I lay down and allow them to lie the way they're lying, what message am I sending to black children? The thing that people need to realize, or that we're trying to show, like in this particular situation, I'm 100% innocent, and these white teachers fabricated an entire case to get me removed from the school. So I can't lay down, brothers and sisters. I got to fight. And I want to just end with this. I know I just said I was going to end with that, but I want your listeners to know this. When all of this stuff came out, there's a lady by the name of Sarah Karp who works for the Sun-Times. It was a cover article on the Sun-Times. And in Sarah Karp's article, there were 3 things that we were saying that Sarah Karp proved in her article. And I'll put it up on the screen while I'm saying this. She said that, well, what we found out is that of the teachers in Chicago, of the principals, pardon me, we found out that 10 principals were removed in 1 year, right? 10 principals were removed. 2 were white, 8 were black. 1 black woman, who I know, Dr. Kimberly Gibson. 7 black men, right? So 70% of the principals that were removed from Chicago Public Schools were black men. Now, this graphic shows we're only 8% of the principals only 8% of the principals are black men, but we 70% of the removals. So this is, now we have been saying this already, but Sarah Karp, through the Freedom of Information Act, got the information from Chicago Public Schools. That's the one thing she was saying. The other thing that Sarah Karp said in her article that we had been saying is that the charges that they said about me and other principals, that they were petty. So one of the things they said, because you asking, well, man, Muhammad, you had to do something. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Not in this case, I'm sorry. So one of the things they said is that I took a student to a Citgo gas station to get snacks, right? But in the law department's report, in 2 different places, it says that the student left the school to go get snacks, right? And I mean, it's just this kind of crazy stuff. This white teacher by the name of Ian Brannigan said that Mr. Muhammad came to school late on December 22nd. That was the day of a snowstorm, December 22nd, 2022. So, you know, you would think that the law department, that these investigators would go and pull the time clock and see, well, when did he really come to school? I went and pulled the time clock for myself and Mr. Brannigan. And on December 22nd, I came to school at 7:46. The white teacher, Mr. Brannigan, who lied to the law department, came to school at 7:47. So now this is the insanity. This is the corruption that you're talking about, Dr. Watkins. The law department did not fact check. It's I'm white and I say so. So they took everything that these white teachers said as facts and did not fact check anything they said. The third thing that Sarah Karp said in her article is, well, let me go back. Sarah Karp was asking the question, does a principal need to be removed? Like, you late? Like, let's say I really was late. I wasn't, but let's say I was. So now I'm the principal. It's a snowstorm. It's a blizzard. Let's say I did come to work late. Do I need to be fired for that? You know, so that's it's like petty, right?
Right.
The third thing that Sarah Karp said is that the investigation was substandard. She gave my investigative report to Joe Ferguson, the former OIG for Chicago Public Schools. He looked at it and he said that, you know, they didn't vet witnesses. They didn't do any. This is Joe Ferguson. They didn't do any fact checking. And there's over 40 witnesses that they didn't even interview. The only people they interviewed, guess who their number one witness was, brothers and sisters? The white athletic director who was stealing the money, who was covering up student injuries, who had 38 coaches out of compliance. That was the star witness of the law department. Their other star witness was the clerk that was working with her and not keeping records. These were the star witnesses that they used against me to frame me for this particular thing. So the last thing that Sarah Karp, she didn't deal with this last thing, but it is the facts, is that the charges that they came with were 100% false, which we have the evidence to prove that. Dr. Boyce, I know we've been here a minute. I'm going to end it right there, but I need everybody to go on that site, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. You can sign a petition. You can email the mayor. You can make a donation. We definitely want you to email the mayor because he's the decision maker. All you have to do is click on his name and click send. The email already populates, and there are videos on that site where you can share those videos on social media. We can't allow Chicago Public Schools to cover it up. You know, the Chicago is corrupt. You had a mayor that covered up the murder of a student, a Chicago Public School student. That's how corrupt it is in the city of Chicago. So the only way we're going to be able to fight that level of corruption is by bringing all of these corrupt things they do into the light. But this is the most corrupt city in America, and it's been so for the last 20 years.
Yeah, and you know, I'll say this: you didn't have to persuade me with any of the details, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I don't. There's an old rule of politics where they say don't defend, attack. And I'm not saying that this would apply here, but the problem that I see for Chicago Public Schools is that they have such a horrible history when it comes to educating our kids
Absolutely.
that their credibility is impossibly low,
right,
in something this serious, especially when you show that statistic where, and I want to make sure everybody understands this, that 70% of the principals removed were black males, and black males are a very tiny percentage of the student population. So if you were racially unbiased,
right,
then 90% of the people fired would have been white. And so this shows a systemic effort to, to basically annihilate or almost do a career genocide, if you will, on the black male principals. Like they don't want, and here's the thing. I think if you understand the history of America, the history of Chicago, the history of the public schools, we know why black males are eliminated from that system as much as possible. It's for the same reason we were eliminated from the home, same reason we've been eliminated from society, the same reason we're eliminated from leadership positions, because we are a threat, right? And so I support you, because it sounds like you have such a stellar record. I want everybody to know I just met the brother last week, Madam President, who is my goddaughter. Actually, she asked me to speak with the brother, and I said, okay, no problem. I'm gonna be quite frank. I don't get involved with politics that much. Robert Kennedy, the presidential candidate, his people wanted to come on this platform and do an interview. I said, I don't want to sit and listen to this old white man scratchy voice for 2 hours. Him rambling on and on about things that I don't believe are going to move the needle in our community. No disrespect to him. I wish him well. He seems like a decent guy. He seems better than Trump and all that. But in my mind, I just said it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of the time of this space, of this platform. So your case is not a waste of time, of course, because we know how important it is to educate our kids. We know how important it is to support people like yourself that are out here doing the right thing. It's also important to really understand what you're dealing with. I mean, if y'all really want me to condense this, here's what you have. You have a historically corrupt school system full of liars and racists, that it and a lot of cronyism. And
Absolutely.
apparently Brother Muhammad got in the way of their money by saying, okay, why are all these people on the clock and they ain't working? What happened to the money at the football game?
Right.
And y'all know what happens then. Just so you know, brother, we talk about economics here a lot. It's you mess up their money, then it's going to be a problem. And the teachers unions, we know that our people, our children are their commodity.
Right.
That's their
Absolutely.
cash cow, right? So they want possession of our kids, the same way you possess a piece of land, or the way you possess a machine, or the way you possess diamonds out of the ground. They want to possess our children, and I think long term, we got to fight to get our children out of that space. We deserve possession of our kids. You can have your own damn kid.
Absolutely.
You
Right.
can
Right.
miseducate your own children. I
Right.
don't want you miseducating ours, because it's causing so many problems in our community. Just look at what happens when you have young people that are lost. If people wonder why I just have such unconditional allegiance and support for the nation. It's because I see what the nation does for black men and with black men. And there's no other place in society that does that. No other place. Everywhere else, the black male is emasculated, he's eliminated, he's indoctrinated, or made into a non-entity. The nation is the place where I go in there and I see the kinds of men that I would go to war with, and the kinds of men that follow that stick to their word, that follow through on the things that they say they're going to do. And that's very important to me in a world where people just do a lot of talking. You got so many and they got the fast talking Negroes on TV, the rappers and all that. I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna go do that, and they don't do anything. And the brothers in the nation are just solid individuals, and I think that that's why all of us as a community need to move past the tiny stuff.
Right.
Forget all the little details. Who said what? He said, she said. I think that's important, obviously, for your case, and I'm sure your lawyers are gonna have the tiny details. But the big picture is that they don't have the credibility
That's a
to
fact.
accuse you of anything.
Right. Right.
You literally could have literally been guilty of all the things that you say you did not do. That you could be guilty of every single thing they said you did, and I would still say no. He still needs to be up in there, because ain't none of y'all perfect.
Right.
We know this, right? So I will say, you obviously have my support. I wish you the very
Definitely
best with
appreciate it.
this.
Yes, sir.
I'll keep everybody posted. You got my number, man. So let me know how things go. Okay.
Yes, sir. I definitely will. I'll definitely stay in touch with you. So we are having meetings with so I'll say this. We met with the Legislative Black Caucus. And I think I shared with you this on the phone when we talked. And so they have agreed to hold hearings in the state legislature regarding CPS's removal of black principals. So, that's huge to have our black politicians. Like you said, Dr. Watkins, sometimes we don't stand up. Like you said, like the mayor he is the decision maker in this. And we need our black politicians to stand up for black people, for our children, and for our community. So the state legislative black caucus has agreed to do that. They've agreed to have those hearings. We met with other politicians. Some aldermen and women are supportive, but it's not the level of support that we need to make the change that we need to make, right? And again, because we're dealing with that Chicago corruption, and some of these people are in the pockets of other people. So, but the way that we expose it is by bringing it to the light. So this is why I want everybody to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, sign the petition, share the videos. If you can, make a donation. And right on that site, if you want to email Mayor Brandon Johnson, listen, brothers and sisters, he's the decision maker. He can change everything tomorrow as far as what's happening with black. He's the decision maker at the end of the day. So you can email Mayor Brandon Johnson right from that site. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have to put pressure on our own black politicians when they really should just stand for what's right for our community. And I'm asking you all to help us apply that pressure to him and share this with as many people as you all can, because we're going to keep fighting.
All right, all right. Let's go put the pressure on them. Justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. That's justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. And also, before we head out, everybody, I want to remind you that next week, of course, we're going to meet again we're going to go back to Dr. Claudette's book, The Black History Reader. We do our educating directly right online. I'm with you also every single morning, 7 days a week, 10 a.m. We're going to do financial consciousness training. If you'd like to join us, you can go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com and get full access to all the materials as well as the live sessions. And we're going to start going through my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. One membership will take care of your whole family. So with one membership, which costs less than $100, you can bring your whole family, and I want to make this available to the whole community. So if you want to join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., just go to drboyceelevate.com. And also, if you want to get on the text list where I can notify you when we're doing these sessions, text the word greatness to 87948. Text greatness to 87948, and I will send you all information and keep you all posted on Mr. Muhammad's situation, as well as when we're having our sessions. We educate you here every single day, and I really think overall the part of our solution is also we must educate each other and connect to each other and support each other. So text the word greatness to 87948, or you can go to drboyceelevate.com if you'd like to join us for financial consciousness training starting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to do that every single day, 7 days a week, because we're changing our financial habits. Why? Well, because one day we're going to be able to raise enough money where we're going to build our own school systems, and we're going to be able to hire people like Brother Muhammad to run those schools. And they won't be constrained by the rules of inferior systems. They'll be educated by superior teachers like Brother Muhammad. He's clearly qualified. They don't deserve him. We deserve him. Our kids deserve him. And that's what we're going to fight for too. All right. So God bless you, everybody. Thank you. And thank you again, Brother Muhammad.
Thank you, my brother.
It was an
And thank
honor
you,
and a
listeners.
pleasure.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
We'll be in touch. Yes, sir.
All right. God bless you. Take care, everybody.
Yes,
Good